we ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
Okay, what do we have today, sir?
Your Honor, we have a petition for writ of mandamus that is before you as a result of the city. I did talk to counsel before we started to kind of see if we could move this along in regards to the exhibits. And I have for the court, if I can approach, a copy of exhibits 1 through 6 that I intend for the court to review.
Approach. Yes, sir. This has been stipulated to.
I've seen them, Your Honor.
Section 24 of the charter of the city of Kingsville deals with recall elections. Section number 2 is the agenda for the June 23rd regular meeting of the Commissioners Court, which has attached to it, just so you know, is attached a memorandum from the city secretary, Mary Valenzuela, in regards to the petition being sufficient as far as the number and everything else that's required. We also have as Exhibit 3 the regular meeting for July 14th, which has it's a redacted version. It only contains item 18, which is dealing with the recall petition. The same thing for July 28th, September 2nd. And then Exhibit 6 is the affidavit and the attached acknowledgement receipt of documents in regards to the petition being received by the city of Kingsville on May 7th of 2025. That's the extent of our exhibits. If you would like, I could call my first witness. I'll try to keep these as quick as I can.
Did you want a short opening, or you want to go straight to your witnesses?
Yeah, we could do an opening. Your Honor. It would help the court, I believe.
Go ahead, sir.
As the court's aware, it has mandamus power over the city of Kingsville in regards to this, not only by Texas law, but also by the charter itself, which delineates that if the city commissioners cannot or do not have the recall election after the certification by the city secretary, then it goes to you to make a determination and to order them to do whatever is necessary and or to do their jobs if they refuse to do them. In this particular case, Ms. Tijanina took it upon herself. She looked up the charter. She looked up what was necessary for a recall petition. She submitted an affidavit in regards to that. She went to the city and gave them all the necessary paperwork, which obviously the exhibits show were effective and were compliant. After that, she was giving notice of how and what to do in regards to the petition, to circulate it, and she had to come back 30 days later with it. One of the arguments that they have made in their trial brief that I don't know if the court's seen yet, but it somehow asserts that there is a time delay and that because it wasn't returned in 30 days, that it is somehow void. The problem with the argument is that it's just not counting correctly. She signed the affidavit on the 5th or the 6th of May, but she didn't submit it to the city till the 7th. So if you go from the 7th to the 6th, when the petition was received, it's exactly a 30-day period. So just their trial brief in regards to that issue, it's just wrong. But I don't know if they had a copy of the receipt documents. They may have only had a copy of the affidavit, but the time period for the 30 days begins when it's received by the city, and the city on Exhibit 6 shows you that it was received on the 7th, and that they told her the date that it had to be filed by, which was the June 6th, and it was filed on June 6th. So that argument doesn't really have much of effect in here, but that seems to be the majority of their trial brief and what it covers. When this was received by the city secretary, Ms. Valenzuela did what she was supposed to do. She made sure that there was enough signatures that would qualify for 20% of the registered voters voting in the last election. And granted, in some of the documents, you're going to hear discussion from the mayor and other people that maybe they should look at this, maybe consider changing the charter because it was a really low number that was necessary to get this recall petition going. But the reason it was low is because they had a low voter turnout. But the charter says what the charter says, and it requires 20% of registered or qualified voters that voted. So the city secretary looked at it, made a determination, the adequate number of voters, checked and verified the actual signatures, and when that verification got to a number that was well in excess of the minimum number that was necessary, she certified it and said, we're good to go. She brought that back as she's ordered to by the charter to city council and to the mayor. They had a meeting and they said, everyone queried her, is everything on the up and up? Yes. Are all the signatures there? Yes. Have you qualified the voters? Yes. Have you looked at the, everything's fine. So what is it we have to do? Well, you'll see in the minutes of the meeting, they talked about it. And they said, well, the city charter requires us to hold a recall election. And there's really not any dispute about it. And the case law that I will give you in a minute, Your Honor, clearly delineates that the commissioners, the commissioners that are the subject of a recall petition should not violate their ethical responsibilities and vote for something that they would benefit from or harm them. And so they either probably shouldn't have voted, but they did. They voted against holding a recall petition election on their own election recall. So they voted against it. Well, first of all, they're violating their ethical responsibilities as commissioners for a city. But more importantly, the case law says that they have an obligation, a ministerial one, to vote for the election. They have no choice. They have to vote for the election regardless of whatever they think, politically, factually, or otherwise. And they didn't do that. So they have another meeting, and they talk about it, and they said, well, what should we do? Well, their decision was, we're not going to do anything. The people that were the subject of this said, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to stand down. We're going to make the citizen who relied upon the law to do all these things and jump through all the hoops. We're going to make that citizen then file a separate action to come before you to make them do which they have to do under the charter. It's a ministerial act. Here's where it gets a little strange. In regards to a mandamus cause of action, the question is not whether you're going to be trying a case about facts or anything else. It is, the question in that is, did someone owe a ministerial duty? And in this case, the case law, all of the case law is clear, that the secretary had her ministerial duty to certify and make sure that everything was correct, then to send letters to the commissioners and tell them if you don't resign within 5 days, then we're going to have a recall election. And then they voted against that, which is against the law. And so that's why we're here. But in regards to the mandamus, the question is, what ministerial duty are we trying to enforce? But what they have also put in their trial brief is that they want to argue that the original substance of the affidavit or supporting documents for the issuance of the election petition were insufficient. And that's a sufficiency review that they're talking about. But that is not something for the subject of a mandamus. A mandamus only asks the mandamus court to make a determination if there was a ministerial duty, which I would tell you in the documents, both the mayor and the city attorney recognize that there was a ministerial duty that they hold the recall election, period. And it's not about the sufficiency. We can talk about, I guess in closing, I can offer the cases in regards to this as well, but the cases are going to show you that it is also, as a matter of law, that while there might be some avenue for these individuals who are subject to the recall to utilize some sort of court proceedings to attack the sufficiency of some sort of mandamus or a recall petition, they didn't do that. There is no affirmative pleading in regards to it, in regards to a declaratory judgment or a counterclaim or anything in regards to this. You don't have jurisdiction to decide what their biggest argument's going to be. Now, I will in closing address that as we go through it, but off the cuff, I'm not planning on going into their sufficiency argument because it doesn't matter at all. There is no jurisdiction of this court to decide the sufficiency because they haven't put it into play. And just so the court knows, I'd like specifically to cite, it's Blanchard versus Fulbright, which is a Houston District Court, and I'll give you a copy in just a second. But it goes through and it talks about this very issue. And it says that the respondents had the right to file a suit in the district court naming and citing several parties and obtaining a judicial determination of the sufficiency of the petitions in an adverse proceeding after proper notice of hearing. No such remedy was requested or pursued in this case. This is exactly on point, but more importantly, you have a case from 2015, the Supreme Court of Texas, in Ray Woodfill, and it is 470 Southwest 3rd, 473. It goes through every single thing that is at issue in this case, and it says at the very end, the same thing as the Blanchard case. I mean, it just repeats what case law has always interpreted, and that's that if you don't put this before the court, then the court doesn't have jurisdiction to decide whether they have a ministerial duty to hold this election, which they do under law and via charter. You don't have any jurisdiction because they haven't pled anything to make a determination regarding the sufficiency to determine if the petition originally should have even been brought. That's the whole issue in this case. So, with that said, I'm going to call some real short witnesses, but I think it's going to be very clear under the law and facts that this is a ministerial duty that they're supposed to engage in. They refuse to do it, and while they had the opportunity to file something, they could have filed something for a declaratory judgment and said, you know what, I want you to declare that the petition is insufficient factually so that we can prevent this from going forward and we don't have to have the recall election. But they didn't do that. They just sat around, they did nothing, and they were waiting for somebody else to try to enforce what we're doing today. And that's what we've done. So, with that said, at the end of the day, I'm going to request that you order that the recall election be had. And I think I submitted an order to it, and if I didn't, I will get it to the court in just a few minutes.
Thank you, sir, for keeping it short.
I apologize.
Mr. Hinojosa, sir?
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may. Your Honor, the city of Kingsville is a home rule city. A home rule city is a city in which, as a result of a referendum from the voters, there's a decision made to adopt a city charter. And that city charter in a home rule city is like the constitution of the city. It dictates what a city can or cannot do and what its officers can or cannot do. Smaller cities are controlled by state law. They don't have a city charter, and everything with respect to the conduct of the officers is under state law, including recall of officers in the city. Because the city of Kingsville is a home rule city, you have to be guided by the language in the city charter on what they can or cannot do. And there is a specific section in the city charter detailing how recall proceedings are conducted. And if you read, you've got a copy of it right in front of you, Your Honor. If you read the provisions of the city charter, the word shall is used over and over and over again. And under the law, the word shall means mandatory. It means they don't have any discretion but to do the things that are set out in the city charter. And one of the things that the city charter does is it gives this court jurisdiction to make officers do what the charter requires them to do. In this case, Your Honor, and I'll read that, because it's extremely important with respect to what this case is all about. If you look at section 24, (24:7), I think it's on the third page or fourth page, it says, failure of the city commission to call an election is the title. In case all of the requirements of this charter shall have been met. In other words, only when all of the requirements of the city charter have been met can the court come in and a district court can come in and discharge the duties of the officers that are involved here. But only when the provisions of the city charter have been complied with. There is no discretion here. It only can happen when all of the provisions have been complied with. If you go back to section 24, 3, it says, recall procedure. Any qualified voters of the city may make and file with the person performing the duties of city secretary an affidavit containing the name or names of the officers whose removal is sought and a statement of the grounds for removal. That's the affidavit. If you look at the exhibit that Mr. Don't remember your last name, Gail.
Last name is Gil.
Oh, last name is Gail, all right. If you look at exhibit number 6, that affidavit is on there. It's a top document. That is the affidavit that triggers the beginning of the recall proceedings. That date of the filing of that affidavit is critical. This affidavit is notarized on the 6th day of May, 2025, and it is stamp marked, I believe, by the city of Kingsville on May the 6th, 2025. Mr. Gale makes reference to another document that he says is the date on which the affidavit was filed, which is right below that, Your Honor. That document is not the document that states the date that it was filed. That is the document whereby Ms. Tejirina verifies that she has received 50 copies of the City of Kingsville recall petition. She on her own says, my timeline starts on this date. But the timeline does not start on the date that she dictates when it's supposed to start. It starts on the date that the petition, that the affidavit was filed, and that was filed on May the 6th, 2025. That's the date that it was received on the right-hand corner of the document, and it's the date that the document was notarized, Your Honor. Now, if you take a look at the Constitution of the City of Kingsville, its city charter, it says in section 24, find that section. I got it over here. I'm not sure that section is in the document. Oh, it's 24-6. It's on the third and the second page, Your Honor, at the bottom. It says, presentation of petition, election to be called. All papers compromising a recall petition shall be returned and filed with the person performing the duties of city secretary within 30 days after the date of the filing of the affidavit. Your Honor, by their own admission, the recall petition was filed with the city secretary on its exhibit number 1. If you look at the last page, it was the city secretary states on June the 6th, 2025, the office of the city secretary received recall petitions seeking the removal of City Commissioner Alvarez, Alarcon, and Hinojosa from the offices of City Commissioner. Not only is it in evidence as in the document that was offered to you by the plaintiff in this case, but it's in their petition as an admission. If you count from May the 5th, the 30th day, if you count from May the 5th to June the 6th, it is 31 days. This is mandatory. They have got to file this petition by the 30th day after filing the affidavit. They did not. And Your Honor, the Supreme Court of the state of Texas has spoken to this. I have given you a brief, Your Honor. It's an old case, but it's the only case that has ever dealt with this one issue. It says, in the case of Nunn versus New, the city charter provision is almost identical. The recall petition to be effective must be returned and filed with the secretary within 30 days after filing the affidavit. The court says, in its opinion, this matter is governed by the prior provisions of the charter above quoted to the effect that to be effective, it must be filed within 30 days after the filing of the affidavit. The secretary's duty is to examine the petition for defects which may be corrected. The failure to file in time is not a defect which may be corrected in any manner except by the filing of a new petition under the terms of the charter. We must conclude, therefore, the recall petition was filed too late, Your Honor. That's the law in the state of Texas. So contrary to what counsel says, the facts are, the undisputed facts are, that the affidavit was filed on May the 5th, the petition was filed on June the 6th, that's 31 days. The charter, the constitution for the great city of Kingsville specifically says that for it to be effective, it has to have been filed within 30 days, and it was not. The other thing that the constitution for the city of Kingsville says is this. Form of the recall petition. The recall petition, again, everything speaks in terms of shall, Your Honor. The recall petition, that's 24-5, the recall petition mentioned above must be addressed to the city commission of the city of Kingsville, must distinctly and specifically state the grounds upon which such petition for removal is predicated, and if there be more than one ground, such as incompetency and noncompliance with the charter and misconduct or malfeasance, then in office
Let me
administration-
stop you real quick, sir.
Huh?
This is opening statement, opening argument, and both of y'all are acting like this is closing. So is this evidence you're gonna show the court to prove this? Because right now you just make an argument.
Yeah, I am, Your Honor. I thought that's what,
No,
I thought
I'll
I was
hear,
gonna save this for
I'm gonna
the
hear
end,
a
but-
closing at the end from both of y'all.
Okay, well,
Okay.
let me just finish right there. Your
Okay.
Honor, that it says here, shall specifically state each ground with certainty and give the officer sought to be removed notice of the matters and things with which he or she is charged. Again, Your Honor, the provision shall is used throughout this charter, and you will see throughout these proceedings today that Ms. Tihinina did not follow the requirements of the charter. And so the court really doesn't have any jurisdiction under the charter provisions because it requires that all the provisions of the charter have been complied with before it triggers revolt.
Okay, thank you, sir. Call your first witness.
I'm called Mary Valenzuela.
Approach.
Not sure what you look like. Did
Is that you, ma'am?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
Did you ask me to approach?
No, her approach.
Okay.
Your witness.
Oh, okay. Just trying to respond quickly.
That's okay, sir. Ma'am, approach the bench so I can swear you in. Good afternoon. Let me have you raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And state your name.
Mary Valenzuela.
And if you could take a seat there, the microphone's not working, so you're gonna have to speak up a little bit, ma'am. You may proceed when you're ready, sir.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Valenzuela, or afternoon, I'm sorry. My name is Chris Gale. I don't know that we've met before, but I represent Ms. Tihinina in regards to this mandamus proceeding. Do you understand that?
That is true. I've never met him before.
Okay. And if you don't understand or hear one of my questions, just ask me to repeat it or rephrase it, and I'd be happy to do that, okay? Okay. I'm gonna try to keep this pretty simple. Did you, in regards to Ms. Tihinina, did you receive documents in regards to request to circulate a recall petition?
Yes.
And when you got those documents, it's my understanding that your role was to explain to them what they needed to do in regards to returning that petition, correct?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, did Ms. T. Harina meet all those deadlines?
To my knowledge, yes.
And did you give her an acknowledgement that told her that she had until as of May 7th, that she had 30 days to return the petition?
As of May 6th, because the affidavits were actually received on May 6th, and the petitions were released on May 7th. So as of May 7th, she had 30 days.
Okay.
To my recollection, because I have not been able to prepare, I wasn't sure I was going to get it.
Okay. But to your knowledge, did Ms. T. Harina do everything she needed to for the city to hold a recall election?
Yes,
And did you present what you had determined in regards to when you received the recall petition back, did everything seem informed?
yes,
And did you make sure that it had the requisite number of signatures?
yes,
And did you make sure that those requisite signatures were actual and authenticated?
yes,
And did you substantiate that at least the minimum number, or well more, had been secured by Ms. T. Harina in regards to the recall petition?
yes,
Okay. And then you went before Mayor Fugate and the rest of the city commission to announce those findings, is that correct?
correct.
And when you went to the city, you had written a memorandum that I think the court has a copy of?
I'm not sure what the court has, as I mentioned, I was not.
Okay. But one of the meetings y'all had on June 23rd, you had attached a certification of petitions for recall, correct?
Correct,
And in that, you went through some of the things that you had checked on, you had done, and then you drafted up an order that was going to be presented to the city, correct?
from my knowledge, correct.
And that order would have been, it would have delineated what you had found and also what would be done in regards to the recall election, correct?
Correct,
And it would include information on where it would be held, when it would be held, and it had it in English and Spanish and all the bells and whistles that you're required by law, correct?
you're talking about the memo that was provided to the commission?
I guess it would be like an ordinance that they would vote for to have the recall election.
Yes,
Okay. And you went to that meeting as the city secretary, correct?
correct,
And in your memorandum and discussions with council and everybody else, was your understanding that the recall election had to happen?
according to the city charter and how it was interpreted, correct.
Okay. And on that day, there was a vote in regards to whether or not to have a recall election, is that correct?
The first day that we presented the petitions, well, the memo to the commission, letting them know of everything that had been received and certified, that was on June 23rd. On July the 14th is when we took it back to commission to put an agenda item to call for the election.
Okay. And the votes in regards to the recall, I believe, were 3 votes, which were the 3 people, the subject of the recall, voted against it.
Correct.
And, all right, well, I think that's all the questions I have for you.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
My name is Hubert Tinojosa, and I represent the city of Kingsville as well as individual defendants in this case.
Nice to
Yours,
meet you.
nice to meet you too. You are the city secretary, is that correct?
Correct.
And you are the person that is in charge of receiving documents from voters who are seeking to recall individuals, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's, charge is given to you under the charter of the city of Kingsville, is that correct?
Correct.
How long have you been the city secretary?
City secretary, 13 years.
In order to become city secretary, you have to receive training to understand what your duties and responsibilities are, is that correct?
That is correct.
And part of those duties and responsibilities that you are trained to follow is that you must follow strictly the requirements of the city charter for the city of Kingsville, right?
That is correct.
That's like the constitution for the city of Kingsville, right?
Correct.
All the things that officers, including you, need to follow are set out in detail in that city charter, right?
Correct.
And you keep a copy of that city charter with you as well, right? Okay. Now I'm gonna hand you what, Ms. Tijerina has marked as exhibit number 6. There's 2 documents on this, and, I'm gonna make reference to the document on the top. You see this?
Yes,
Right. Have you seen that document on the top before?
yes,
And that is the affidavit that was filed by Ms. Tijerina, right?
correct,
And on the right-hand corner, it says received, right?
correct.
Who wrote that?
I did,
And it says it was received on May the 6th.
correct,
That's the date you received that document. She brought it to you, and that's the day that it was filed, right?
that's the day I received the affidavit, correct,
Well, that's the day that she filed it with you, right?
correct.
Okay. Now, the other document that's at the bottom, it's an acknowledgement of receipt of documents. You see that?
Could I take a look at who that's mentioned the first part, please?
Yeah. Have you seen that document?
Yes,
Okay. Now, let me, take the city charter. There's a provision in this city charter that speaks to what you do after you receive an affidavit, right?
correct,
From an individual wishing to file a recall petition. Is that correct?
correct,
And here's what it said. The city secretary shall, within a period of 2 working days from the time the affidavit was filed thereupon, make available to the qualified voters making such affidavit copies of petition blanks demanding such removal. The city secretary shall keep a sufficient number of printed petition blanks on hand for distribution. Such blanks, when issued by the city secretary, shall bear the signature of the city secretary and be of such form as prescribed below, and shall be numbered, dated, and indicate the name of the person to whom issued. The city secretary shall enter in a record to be kept in her office the number of qualified voters to whom the petition blanks were issued and number of said person. That second document on that page is an acknowledgement that you were following the 2-day requirement of giving her that information. Is that correct?
correct.
Thank you. Now, the affidavit, I'm sorry, Mr. Gale spoke to you just a second ago about a memo that was provided to the city commission after the date of the date that you had received the petition. You recall that? May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Exhibit number 2 has a memo. I'm gonna hand that to you. And that memo says that on June the 6th, you received the recall petition. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, with that memo, you notified the city commission of the date that the recall petition was received by you.
I don't recall.
So that's what it says. It says, on June 6th, the office of the city secretary received recall petitions seeking the removal of city commissioners Alvarez, Alarcon, and Hinojosa. You wrote this, right?
Yes, correct, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
So that's the date that you received it, right?
Correct.
So if you take the date that you received the affidavit, and you count the number of days from May the 6th to June the 6th, it's 31 days. Did you do that at the time that you?
At this point, I am going to object to the questions. I thought we were going to get to the mandamus at issue, but in regards to the Woodville case that I had quoted earlier, in regards to my opening, I'm going to object to this being completely irrelevant. And if I'd be allowed to just read, but can I approach Your Honor and give a copy?
Yes, sir.
Copy to counsel as
Mr.
well.
Heno, so you can approach too. Sir, you can approach if you want to, or you can stay there. Go ahead with your objection.
Your Honor, and I want to read from, this is a Texas Supreme Court case. And in looking at page, with the highlighted, the one I just provided to you, it's highlighted on his copy as well. It's at page, it's notated as 480, but it reads, and this is a case in which we have a petition, and it says, if the city council cannot independently evaluate, if they cannot independently evaluate the petition as a predicate to its ministerial duty, then it may not for itself decide if that petition is invalid or enforce the petition organizers to sue. Faced with the city secretary's certification, the city council had no discretion but to repeal the ordinance or proceed with the election process. If the city council believed that the city secretary abused her discretion in certifying the petition or otherwise erred in her duties, it was nonetheless obligated to fulfill its duties under the charter and thereafter seek an affirmative relief to which it might be entitled. But the city council did not do so. Instead, it refused to fulfill its ministerial duty. It forced the petition organizers to file suit. The mere existence of the city's challenge to the petition does not negate the city council's duty to proceed with the political process unless that obligation is stayed by a court of competent jurisdiction. To hold otherwise would allow cities to freely shirk their obligation to follow through on properly certified petitions. Indeed, it would mean their obligation is not ministerial at all. So any questions in regards to anything that the city secretary did or did not do correctly is completely irrelevant. And the only ministerial duty that we're talking about is once she certifies the petitions, which she did, is the ministerial duty that the commission and along with the mayor hold the election. That's it. That's the only ministerial duty that is issue in this, and it is not about anything else. So we could spend a lot of time talking about things that may or may not factually be correct in regards to something that wasn't done correctly. It's irrelevant to the end of the proceedings because you're only deciding the ministerial act that should have been done and wasn't. And so I would object to any questions in regards to the city secretary or otherwise that delineate anything that we're talking about things that she should have done. Maybe she didn't calculate the number of signatures correct or anything else because it's simply immaterial to anything that this court is asking to decide.
Sir.
Mayor, Your Honor, Mr. Gale ignores the specific language of the city charter. The city charter says on section 24(7), in case all of the requirements of this charter shall have been met and the city commission shall fail or refuse to receive the recall petition or order such recall election or discharge any other duties imposed upon said city commission by the provisions of this charter with reference to such recall, then the district judge of Claiborne County, Texas shall discharge any such duties herein provided, Your Honor. It clearly is relevant because you have to determine, in determining whether or not you are going to exercise jurisdiction in this case, whether or not all the provisions of the charter, the requirements of the charter were met. It says shall have been met. It doesn't say may have been met or could have been met. It says shall have been made. You cannot act on this petition, Your Honor, if they were not met. The questions that I'm asking the city secretary is to determine whether the 30-day filing requirement had been met, and it certainly was not, because the date, he just acknowledged, contrary to what Mr. Gale told you during opening arguments, he made He made the representation to you, and I apologize for using the misrepresentation. I think he made the representation to you that the date of filing was May the 7th. She's just told you on the witness stand, under oath, that the date of filing of the affidavit was May the 6th. So if you take the shall language that's in the city charter, which requires that the petition have been filed within 30 days after the date of the filing of the affidavit, that requirement in the city charter for a recall petition to be effective was not met. And therefore, you cannot exercise mandamus jurisdiction under the specific provisions of the city charter, Your Honor. This is not a Class A or Class B city. This is a home rule city that is guided by the charter provisions that were enacted by the voters of this community. And the voters of this community chose to require that you not exercise jurisdiction unless Ms. Tijerina is able to prove that she met all of the requirements of the city charter. The most important one is the fact that they've got to file this petition 30 days from the date that they filed the affidavit, because you can't allow an individual to just decide they file the affidavit, they get the petition, and they take their time and take 45 days, they can take 2 months to get all the signatures, and then come back and get the city commission to order a recall petition. Our clients did not have a ministerial duty to approve and order a recall petition when they knew that the provisions of the city charter were not followed by Ms. Tijerina. So clearly, her testimony with respect to whether or not the recall provision, petition was filed in time is relevant under their city charter. If we ignore the city charter, then we have to ignore the entire all the provisions in the recall petition, in the recall sections of the city charter. It's clear, it used mandatory language. We are guided by the court is guided by mandatory language as well. You cannot order a mandamus unless someone didn't do what they were required to do under the law. This mandatory language also applies to the court. The court shall only exercise jurisdiction only if all the provisions of the requirements of the charter have been met, shall have been met, and they were not. That's the bottom line.
So,
Just real quick, I thought council started off earlier today saying that this court has jurisdiction. And now I seem to hear that they're backtracking from that and saying that the court doesn't have jurisdiction. So I'm not sure, but I thought we were past the jurisdictional element. But the other case that I had handy too, and I just want to put the site for it on the record, apart from the Woodville opinion, I've given you Blanchard versus Fulbright at 633 Southwest 2nd, 617. Blanchard and a plethora of other cases in Texas have cited the exact opposite of what council is urging. The city secretary, once they have certified the election, that's it. They cannot even make a determination in regards to other issues. And if they do so improperly or whatever they want to argue, it doesn't matter. And I'm citing two cases that I'm about to give the court. In Ray Gerds at 224 Texas Lexus 370. In Ray Crenshaw, which is 4/2017 Texas Lexus 10510. In Ray Porter at 126 Southwest 3rd 708. In Ray Lee at 412 Southwest 3rd 23. In Ray Johnson 215 Texas Lexus 944. City of Plano versus Caruth at 217 Texas Lexus 1603. All of these cases, combined with the Woodville cases and the Blanchard cases, say exactly what needs to be done in regards to these cases. Had they made, if they wanted to attack some problem with the sufficiency or other concerns in regards to after the certification, they could have done it. They could have done it. And they didn't do it. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not going to try to go into the bunny trail of following the logic in regards to the factual scenario that they're laying out, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day because they have not asserted any affirmative pleadings in regards to this case, in regards to any affirmative relief requesting anything from the decision. So They have a decision from the city secretary certifying the petition. They have no resort but to have the election unless one of them decided to take some action. And the Woodville case tells you that if you sit on your butt and you do nothing, and you don't do anything to preserve your rights, and you don't file anything in court to do the same, then you've waived it. And you don't bring it before this court, and the court has no jurisdiction to decide those issues.
Your Honor.
So, any more questioning in regards to what he thinks the city secretary did or didn't do correct is simply irrelevant.
Your Honor, if you read this opinion, it has nothing to do with the city charter. This is a referendum petition. There is no language in this that talks about what the requirements of a city charter are. The special part of this case in this city is that we have a city charter that tells you exactly what you cannot and cannot do. They have to mean something. They didn't include them in the city charter just to have them in there. It specifically says you cannot exercise, I never have said that the court has jurisdiction. I've said the court is bound by the provisions of the city charter. There are recall provisions in the statutes that relate to non-home rule cities. The only recall provisions that relate to home rule cities are those contained in a city charter, Your Honor, and the city charter dictates when you can be involved. So whether or not the requirements were met is highly relevant in this case. I wasn't required to do anything. It's their burden to prove that you have jurisdiction to issue a mandamus in this case. My job is to say, well, no, Your Honor, not if we're bound by the document that sets up the guidelines by which a recall petition can be filed. And that's what we have. There is no statute that tells us how recall petitions are handled for home rule cities, because the legislature in its infinite wisdom made a decision that in home rule cities, it was gonna allow home rule cities to decide how to do recall petitions. And they did that in this particular case, and that's in that document you have there. And it uses the word shall. And that word shall is a word that has been used over and over in the law that dictates what you can or cannot do. There is no discretion when the word shall is used, Your Honor. And it says shall, you can only hear this matter if the provisions of the city charter have, all of the requirements have been met. And her testimony is that they were not met.
Overruled. Continue.
Your Honor, can I approach just to give you a copy of those cases?
Yes, sir.
So just to sum up, Ms. Valenzuela?
Correct.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So you count from the date it was filed, May 5th to June the 6th, it's 31 days, right?
That is not how we interpreted the charter, sir.
I'm sorry?
That is not how the charter was interpreted.
Well, I understand that. But you've already testified under oath that the affidavit was filed on May the 6th. You
Correct.
said that, right?
Correct.
And you also testified under oath that you received this petition on June the 6th, right?
Correct.
So if we count from that date from May the 5th to June the 6th, that's 31 days, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Now, there's also a section in the city charter, in your constitution, that says it's 24-5. It says the recalled petition mentioned above must be addressed to the city commission of the city of Kingsville. Must distinctly and specifically state the grounds upon which such petition for removal is predicated. And if there be more than one ground, such as incompetency or noncompliance with this charter, misconduct or malfeasance in office, shall specifically state each ground with such certainty as to give the officers sought to be removed notice of such matters and things which he or she is charged. Recall petition papers provided by the person performing the duties of the city secretary shall be in form substantially as follows, and it's got a form there, yeah. So I wanna mark as our plaintiff's exhibit number, defendant's exhibit number 1.
So you're addressing the witness or the court?
I was gonna offer it to the court and
Okay. Any
I
objection?
don't have an objection to the document, I'm assuming it's the recall petition, the results of it, but I do have an objection to what I think is a question, but I'm not sure if it is.
Well, hang on. Approach. So this is admitted as defense,
I'm sorry?
exhibit 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna, defendant's 1, yes, you are.
Okay. Are you gonna take this back, sir?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Yes,
So it's-
okay.
It's admitted, Your Honor?
Submit it, you can publish it.
Now, I'm gonna show you what is marked as defendant's exhibit number 1. I'm gonna hand it to you. Okay. Do you see the top paragraph in that document?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the paragraph that gives the reasons why Mr. Helena is asking people to recall the defendant commissioner. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Could you read to the judge, what are the grounds that she raises?
Unprofessional conduct, behavior of a city commissioner, neglect of physical responsibilities, targeting personnel, and neglect of city government policies and procedures.
In that petition, anywhere, do you find any detail as to what is meant by those allegations?
Your Honor, again, I'm gonna object in regards to, if they wanted to attack the sufficiency, they could have raised something, but more importantly, the other cases that I provided to you specifically state that the city secretary's job is in no way or fashion to determine the sufficiency of the petition itself. In fact, she cannot do that. Neither can the city. The city cannot attack the sufficiency of it, just declare that it's not sufficient. The city secretary has no duty. In fact, her duty is not to do that unless the city charter particularly provides for that, which it doesn't in this one. All of the other cases have something similar to Kingsville. So she can't make that
So
determination.
who can't?
The people that are affected by it, the 3 people that are subject to the recall, if they feel like it's insufficient or if there's some reason to attack it, then they can file a declaratory judgment or some kind of, they can file something to bring it to the court's attention. They have not done that in any other proceeding or in this one. They could have done it because that's their right to do that, but they chose to stand down on that right and not do it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Go ahead, respond to that, or?
Yes,
Yeah, Your Honor, again, it comes down to the issue of whether the requirements of the city charter were met. That's when you come in. If all the requirements of the city charter shall have been met, it says shall have been met, then at that point, you can exercise jurisdiction and make them do what you decide you want them to do with respect to ordering a recall petition. But,
okay, continue, sir.
all right, thank you, Your Honor.
Overruled.
So, do you know, just reading this, what is meant by unprofessional conduct? Do you know what specific instances of unprofessional conduct? Well, let me withdraw that. Did she cite any specific incidents of unprofessional conduct or behavior?
No,
Did she tell you what these commissioners did wrong in terms of neglect of fiscal responsibilities?
no,
Did she tell you what personnel they were targeting?
no,
Did she tell you what neglect of city government policies and procedures they were engaged in?
no,
So none of these provisions tell us specifically and distinctly what they did wrong, which should cause them to be recalled, right?
Objection argumentative.
Sustain.
Do any of these provisions tell you specifically and distinctly what they did wrong?
Objection argumentative and asking for a legal conclusion.
I'll move on, the court can determine that.
Sustain.
I pass the witness, Your
Any follow-up?
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. You can step down. Thank you for testifying today. Call your next witness.
I call the Honorable Mayor Egate. Say semi-honorable.
So you're an officer of the court, so I don't need to swear you in. You're always under oath.
Honor. Sir.
Now it appears you're honorable, so.
All right. Would you please introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, Sam Fugate, Mayor of Kingsville.
All right. How long you been the mayor?
Let's see, a little over 21 years.
Y'all ever had a recall petition before?
Not as mayor.
Okay. Have you ever been involved in one prior?
I've never been involved in one.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you in particular in regards to this case. Did you receive a certification for a recall election?
Yes,
And was that from Ms. Valenzuela, the city secretary?
it was.
And did y'all have a meeting at which y'all discussed the memorandum that was created by Ms. Valenzuela regarding what she had done to certify that petition?
We did.
At the time, do you have any concerns with her certification?
No,
And once, according to the charter, a certification by the city secretary occurs in regards to a request for a recall election, is there any discretion on what y'all do next?
not according to our lawyers. We, both our city attorney and our outside counsel.
Hold on. Your Honor, I would object. He's being called as the mayor of the great city of Kingsville. He is not being called as an expert on this issue, Your Honor. He's being asked to render a legal opinion. I know he's a lawyer, but he's being asked to render a legal opinion on an issue with respect to this particular case. You're the judge. You will decide whether or not it matters.
I can't imagine a single person that would be more qualified than the mayor for how many years to make a decision to tell the court what exactly is required of his city.
The only person that counts is you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Overruled. Continue.
Excuse me.
I was just asking, once the city, you and the other commissioners have received a certification from the city secretary in regards to a recall election, do y'all have any discretion but to have the election?
It's my understanding, no.
And do you have any discretion in regards to like how you vote for it? I mean, is it your understanding that it's mandatory that y'all vote for the election pending any other?
It's my understanding it's a violation of our city charter if you don't vote for it.
That's all the questions I have.
Sir?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor.
See, Judge.
I have known you for many, many years, is that correct?
I was trying to remember, it's gotta be over 40 years.
We've aged well together.
Did you see me walk up here?
About the same way, okay? So you've been the mayor for 21 years or more,
It was 21 years in May.
and you were a city commissioner before that?
Now I'm on the school board.
Okay, you were on the school board. Were you mayor of the city of Kingsville at the time that this charter provision was adopted?
No.
Okay. But you have been the mayor during the entire time that these charters, the city charters have been in effect, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you understand that the city charter was adopted by the citizens of the city of Kingsville, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and being a mayor of a city for so long, you also understand that you are bound by the provisions of the city charter, is that correct?
We are. It's our constitution.
I use the word constitution, but I don't use it loosely. Wouldn't you agree with me that it is the form of a constitution that guides how you conduct business in the city of Kingsville?
It is.
So, as with the Constitution, you have to comply with every provision of that Constitution, right? Yes? Of that
It's my
city charter?
understanding, it's my understanding that it is our duty as commissioners and being on the commission, that we have to comply with the, or we have to follow the,
That's right. And you understand also that when the city charter uses the word shall, it means shall. That means that you have to do this, right?
that's correct.
There's no fudging on that, right? If the city charter dictates to you a certain thing that must be done, then it must be done, right?
I think if you use the word may as opposed to shall, then you have some discretion. But when they say shall, you don't have any discretion.
And you understand that this city charter has a section on recall petitions, right?
It does.
And it's very specific on how you file recall petitions, right?
Yes.
And you understand that, that under the city charter, all papers comprising a recall petition shall be returned and filed with the person performing the duties of city secretary within 30 days after the filing of the affidavit. You've read that provision, right? You're familiar with it.
I'm familiar with it.
All right. Which means that in order for that petition to be effective, Ms. Tijerina had to file it within 30 days of the date that she filed her affidavit, right?
Doesn't the charter say 30 days after the day it's received?
Well, let me read it to you.
Speak to it.
It says, a recall petition shall be returned and filed with the person performing the duties of city secretary within 30 days after the filing of the affidavit. Right? And so in this instance, you would agree with me, this affidavit was filed on May the 6th. That's what the city secretary said.
That's her testimony.
All right. And so that would mean that the petition had to have been filed with her within 30 days of the date that Ms. Tijerina filed the affidavit, right? That's what it says.
I really can't answer that. I'm gonna defer to my attorneys on that, because both of them, Jim McKibben's firm over at Corpus and our lawyer, who I have a great deal of respect for, said that those petitions were filed in a timely fashion. And I would defer to them.
Well, I mean, you were asked by Mr. Gale certain questions regarding the legality of whether or not these commissioners had to call a recall petition, and you freely answered that question. You had knowledge of that, right?
Well, the reason I had knowledge about that, sir, is that on the, I forget which day it was, I think it was a July meeting, those questions were asked. I think Commissioner Lopez specifically asked, what happens if we don't call the election? And it was said by our lawyers that if we didn't call the election, it was a violation of our charter.
Their lawyers can be wrong sometimes, right?
That's argumentative. I mean, I agree with it, but the purpose of this hearing.
All right, let me show you.
Well, I know that that I could be wrong, and I know that day's coming good.
Well, I remember a certain trial in
Never knew.
where was that, in Jim Hogg County, where maybe I was wrong, but you were the lawyer for them, right?
That was a long time ago.
A long time ago. Anyway, so just set aside what the lawyers tell you for 1 second, okay? Just for a second. I mean, you're a lawyer, you've been practicing law, you're very well respected as a lawyer, and you even, I think, probably concentrate a lot on criminal law, which is, uses the word shall a lot when it comes to telling people what they can or cannot do in terms of the law, right?
Sure.
Okay. And so you understand that that's a pretty firm word. That means that's it. You do it. Okay, so let's take your knowledge of the law, May the 6th, right?
That's right, it's 2/23.
And Ms. Valenzuela just testified that that's the date that it was filed, right?
Okay.
Okay. And in that memo, she said that she received the petition on June the sixth, right? Never been any question as to when they received it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so regardless of what the lawyers told you, this lawyer knows, this lawyer that's sitting in the witness stand knows that the date of filing was May the fifth, and the date of receipt of the petition was June the sixth, and you count, that's 31 days, right?
Check to the form of the question,
just
it's argumentative, telling him, the witness what he knows, and you're just stating something.
Rephrase your question, sir.
Correct. You know the date that it was filed, the affidavit, right? Mayor?
Yes,
Okay. And you know the date that the petition was filed, right?
yes,
And if you count those days, you count the number of days from May the fifth to June the sixth, it's 31 days, right?
yes.
Okay. And so if your city charter, your constitution, the document that you for 21 years have followed religiously to become the greatest mayor of the city of Kingsville history, right?
Yes.
If your constitution says all papers comprising a recall petition shall be returned and filed with the person performing the duties of city secretary within 30 days after the filing of the affidavit. That means,
That's the language that hangs me up. It's 30 days after.
well,
Do you get that first day?
you don't take that first day.
What?
I'm gonna take a
that's subject
sidebar
to
comment.
interpretation.
Council,
Hang on.
council cannot
Question,
make that
Hank.
determination.
Question, answer. Continue.
So you do not count that day.
I didn't say that. I think that's subject to interpretation.
Well,
It says it's 30 days after it's filed, so you take that first day. And if you interpret the law in that fashion, it was filed in a timely way.
right. That's what you say, but
Well,
But the petition, but the document says otherwise, right? The charter says specifically what it means. It says, the petition shall be returned and filed with the person performing the duties of city secretary within 30 days after the filing of the affidavit. That's right. So you take the affidavit and then you count 30 days.
that's what you do. That's what I don't do. I'm saying you get that first day.
Well, I'm not sure how that.
30 days
looking at
after,
that, but that's
30
not what
days
the-
after it's filed,
Yeah.
you get the first day.
That's not what the word is.
I'm gonna check this being argumentative.
Sister
That's-
Aid,
that's my
hang on,
interpretation.
hang on. Sister
I'll let you
Aid,
make that interpretation. Now, I'll pass away.
I do have a couple of real short ones. I promise I'll make this short. I'm looking at one of the other provisions in the recall, and it's section 4, and it talks about the petition. And it says, such petition shall contain a general statement of the grounds for which the removal is sought. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And what you heard here today, as far as a general statement of the grounds for which removal is sought, did that seem like that was a pretty general statement of the grounds for which they're sought?
Yes. And let me tell you something, Mary Valenzuela has been our city secretary for 13 years, and she does a great job for the city of Kingsville. She's been to so many election schools, and she knows her business. So when she says that she complied with the law, she complied with the law.
And once she's done that, once she complied with the law and gave you a certification for the recall petition, what did the 3 commissioners that were the subject of those recall petitions, what
Again,
did
objection and call for legal conclusion, Your Honor.
overruled.
they do?
Well, they voted against it.
And did
They voted against calling the election.
And to your knowledge, did any of those 3, either in this proceeding or any other, raise any issues by declaratory judgment or otherwise to object or complain about anybody's behavior?
They didn't say a word, they just voted against and they have not raised any legal objection that I'm aware of.
Nothing further on.
Do you vote as a mayor?
Yes,
And if something comes before you when you're a mayor that's contrary to the city charter, do you vote for it or against it?
the charter is our constitution. You vote according to the charter.
So when you're the mayor, if you see something that's contrary to the Constitution, you're legally obligated, or the city charter, you're legally obligated to vote against it, right?
Well, when you got two good lawyers and a good city secretary telling you that it's a violation of the charter not to vote for it,
Well, I'm not asking you about them.
well,
I'm asking you about you, Mayor.
I'm gonna take their advice.
Well, okay. Let me also point to you another provision in the city charter. Mr. Gale pointed to one provision that is in the city charter with respect to the affidavit. But there's another provision in the city charter that tells us what the grounds need to be, what you have to state in the city recall petition in order to make it valid. You knew that, right? It says, the recall petition must distinctly and specifically state the grounds upon which such petition for removal is predicated. If there be more than one ground, such as for incompetency, non-compliance with the charter, misconduct, or malfeasance in office, shall specifically state each ground with such certainty as to give the officer charged to be removed notice of such matters and things with which he or she is charged. Recall petition papers provided by the person. Well, that's the language. Now, you can't tell me, Mayor, that when they say in the recall petition that they should be recalled for neglect of fiscal responsibilities, I'm sorry, they should be recalled because of unprofessional conduct, behavior, neglect of fiscal responsibilities, targeting personnel, and neglect of city government policy and procedures, policies and procedures, that language distinctly and specifically states each ground with certainty as to give the officer sought to be removed notice of such matters and things with which he or she is charged. That's kind of like the vagueness stuff that you've used as a criminal lawyer over the years to find that to argue that certain statutes are not constitutional.
Well, I think a lawyer from Brownsville might not know what that means, but I think anybody here at Kingsville knows what they were talking about.
Well, but it's not what anybody would know, it's what the people that are being charged specifically should know. And it doesn't,
Jack is argumentative. He's just
Sustained.
arguing with him.
I'll pass
Sustain
it.
both of y'all again.
Nothing
That was
further.
spin 2 rounds, sir. Thank you for testifying today. Mr. Fugate, you can step down.
Thanks, Judge.
Call your next witness.
Arrest.
Okay. I'm gonna take a short break. I'm gonna take care of the criminal case so we can get these guys back over to the jail. Give y'all time to get your argument. Do you have a witness or not? Are you gonna call any witnesses, sir?
Yes, one witness.
Okay. So we're just gonna take a short break. I know everybody's been in here for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, so y'all have time to go to the restroom and all that. Back on the record, cause number 25377D, Selena Tedina versus City of Kingsville. Noah Alvarez, Hector Hinojosa, Lino Patacan.
Yeah, I'll normalize, I'm gonna stand.
Approach the bench, ma'am. Good afternoon. Let me have you raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Sir. Thank you, Mr. Tracy, right there, and sir, whenever you're ready, you may proceed.
That question was,
Yes, sir.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You're an elected city commissioner for the city of Kingsville.
Yes, I am.
How long have you been in office?
This time around, 5 years.
And got elected the last time, you have to take an oath of office,
Yes,
and what did that oath say?
that I should follow the law, that I should be aware of our city charter and be professional, comply with the law.
You consider the city charter the law?
Yes,
I'm gonna hand you what I've marked as exhibit, what I marked as exhibit, defendant's exhibit number 1, and ask you if you recognize this document.
yes, I do.
Okay. And what is it?
They're copies of signed petitions
This is a petition that
for the recall.
Ms. Tijerina certainly.
Correct.
And on the top of that, it's got a description, or it's got a statement as to what you did wrong, which Ms. Tijerina is stating to the people that she's contacting should be ground for you to be recalled. You understand that, right?
Yes,
Okay. Let me go through each one. And you've seen it.
yes,
The first one that she says that should cause you to be removed is unprofessional conduct, behavior. You know what she's talking about there?
well, I know what that means, but I don't know, referring to me, what it meant there, because I have never been unprofessional.
Does that give you any notice as to what she's intending,
No.
what she is wanting to recall you for?
No,
And you knew that this recall petition was being circulated, right?
yes,
Okay, and you fought against this recall petition, right? I mean, you talked to voters and told voters, hey,
I'm objecting, leading, Your Honor.
Just answering crazy questions here.
have you talked to voters? Did you talk to voters during this period of time about this recall petition?
yes, Your Honor, yes, yes.
Right.
Because they, several people were calling me, what is this all about, Norma? And I've never seen you or the other two be unprofessional, so what does this mean? What's it about? And so, yes, I did speak to several voters.
And were you aware of what Ms. Tijerina was trying to say? She says here also that neglect of fiscal responsibility. You know what that means with respect to any misconduct on your part?
I don't, because, well, first of all, we don't even have a budget, but personally have a budget, but we do oversee the budget. And so, we've always, whatever we vote for, we will work together, vote for the budget. and-
You don't have a money that you control as a city commissioner?
Not at all.
Your Honor, I just want to relevancy, we're not here to try to factually make a determination on whether anything in the recall election petition is true or not true. That's for the voters and for a later date. We're just here for the mandamus proceeding, so I feel like we're kind of defending.
Sustained. Yes, officer.
Well, Your Honor, am I not allowed to ask him if she understood what these mean? Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Because the charter requires that she be given notice of the allegations against her. And so I'm simply asking whether or not these were notice of the allegations against her.
And I didn't object when the council asked that question. I'm objecting though beyond that and trying to talk about the
I'll
subject.
limit it to that. Okay.
Check it out, sir.
So let me just read them out, and I'm gonna ask you that question. The next one is neglect of fiscal responsibilities, and then it says targeting personnel, and then it says neglect of city government policies and procedures. You read that.
Yes, I did.
Do you understand, or do you know what specific conduct, distinct and specific conduct, Ms. Tijerina is talking about in these allegations?
No, I didn't.
Has she ever told you what this conduct is?
I've never spoken to this.
Has anyone who was involved in this recall petition ever told you what you are being accused of?
No.
Now, you said you took an oath, right?
Yes,
Council for Muskegon has been stating over and over that you were required to vote for the recall petition. Have you heard say that?
Yes.
Yeah,
I've
heard
heard
say
this
that?
before, yes.
Tell the judge why you did not vote for having a recall election.
Because I felt that the charter had not been, had been violated, because first of all, they did not turn in the petitions in the correct time frame. They turned them in 31 days after, so therefore, I didn't feel that I should have voted for the recall because that part was not complied with, and the charter is, like you stated, it's our constitution.
Would you be abiding by your oath had you voted for it?
Nope.
And why is that?
Well, because I took an oath to say that I must follow the law, which the law is our charter.
So if you voted for, to have a recall election, you felt that that would have been a violation of the law because the charter does not allow for an election when they haven't met the requirement.
Seems a little leading, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Do you, why do you feel the charter provisions were violated?
Well, they were violated because, first of all, the 30 days, they were turned in within 31 days. And also because the charter is very specific and says that they need to be specific with what the charges were. And they never gave us any specifics as to what we did, or I did, wrong.
Well, that's the way.
Commissioner Alvarez, after you found out that there was a request that you, or there was a certification for a recall election, you were provided with that, correct?
Could you repeat the question?
You were provided with a certification from the city secretary regarding the recall election?
Oh, yes,
And did you write anything in response to that?
no,
Did you request a hearing with the city council and to address or discuss these issues?
no,
Do you understand that the Texas Ethics Code prevents a sitting commissioner from voting in regards to an
Object, I'll let you finish your question.
The Texas Ethics Code prevents a sitting commissioner from voting in regards to an issue that pertains to them?
Objection, Your Honor, call
I
for a
don't
legal
understand the
Well,
conclusion.
question.
And she's not a lawyer.
My mother says I was.
so following your mother's logic, after you received the certification, y'all took a vote in regards to whether you were going to follow the charter and call for an election, correct?
Objection, it assumes fact not in evidence, Your Honor. You have not heard anything where it's in a faulty charter. Everything is the opposite of that, Your Honor. That's the way you ask the question.
It's not facts, not in evidence. I'm not sure what the objection is, but
He said that you would follow the charter and vote for the recall petition and recall election.
can I just break it down a little bit, Your Honor?
Continue, sir.
You were at a meeting of the city council when the city secretary gave y'all the certification for the recall election, correct?
Here's the certification for the recall election. Is that, could you?
You gotta answer my question,
No,
not ask me another
I'm
question.
repeating it,
Okay.
but I want you to repeat it.
There was a meeting with city council in which the city secretary appeared before you and the mayor and said, I have certified the recall election, correct?
Correct.
And she provided to you a memorandum in regards to what she did to certify that election, correct?
No,
You didn't see the memorandum that you were provided?
not at that meeting.
Okay, was there a subsequent meeting where you were provided a copy
No,
of, you were never provided a copy of a memorandum? Okay, you do understand that if we looked online right now, we could see the packet that was provided to everybody out there in the Netherlands, the universe, if they wanted to look it up, a packet that has information for each agenda, correct?
Your Honor, he's asking a question about evidence that's not before you. And
can I
if you look online right now,
Can I explain though something?
No.
Your Honor,
No, you can't.
according to his question.
Mayor, hang on.
May I approach, Your Honor?
hang on.
I'm sorry.
Dealing with this objection first. What was your objection?
My objection is he's assuming facts not in evidence. He's saying if you look online right now, this and that, we don't have that on evidence. So he's not asking a proper question.
Okay, sir.
May I just ask it again? Were you aware of the agenda packet for July 14th, 2025?
Yes,
And in the agenda packet for 2025, for July 14th of 2025, in regards to agenda item 18, did you see as part of that package the certification of petitions for recall?
yes,
Okay. So you have been provided a copy of the certification of petitions for recall at least as of July 14th, 2025, correct?
correct,
And you actually get a copy of the packet well before it's put online, correct?
it's at the same time.
Okay. So after July 14th of 2025, once you'd received this packet that had the certification for the recall and had the ordinances that showed exactly what would be necessary in order to effectuate the recall, did you send anything to the city that objected to anything concerning the recall petition?
No, sir,
Did you file anything requesting a hearing before the city commissioners to talk about the petition?
no, sir,
Did you ask to talk to the city secretary or the mayor or anybody else in regards to the petition?
no, sir. Wait. I did speak to the city secretary, yes, and yes,
And after that, did you file any other, let's take, apart from this cause of action that Ms. Tijarina filed, did you affirmatively go out and file any litigation where you asked a court for mandamus relief,
no, sir,
declaratory judgment relief,
no, sir,
any relief whatsoever associated with any deficiencies that you say existed in regards to the recall petition?
no, sir,
And in regards to this litigation, have you asserted any affirmative relief asking for mandamus proceeding or anything else in regards to any concerns that you are now raising?
no, sir.
Nothing further.
Do you believe that the city secretary was correct? Did you believe at that time and today, do you believe the city secretary was correct in certifying the election?
I'm gonna have Jack ask for a legal conclusion.
Overruled. Yes, sir.
Do you believe she was correct in certifying the election,
What I believe is I think
certifying the recall petition, I'm sorry?
to accept the signature,
Huh?
to accept the signatures?
No. What Mr. Gale's asking you about is certifying her statement where she certified that the recall petition was correct in all respects. I think that's what it says. Do you agree with her when she makes that statement? City Secretary.
I still had an issue with the days. So I think there was a problem there that I was not comfortable with because the days weren't coming out the way they should. It wasn't 30 days, it was 31 days.
So the answer is yes or no?
No,
I'll pass the witness.
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. Second, thank you for testifying. Call your next,
Your Honor, I'll call Leo Alarcon.
first, please. Sir, you're an officer of the court. Take a seat. You may proceed when you're ready, sir.
Mr. Alarcon, just state your name and address.
My name is Leonel Leo Alarcon.
Are you a city commissioner?
I am Commissioner Place Board, yes, sir.
Why don't you move that microphone a little bit closer?
The microphone
Does
doesn't,
No?
doesn't work.
you gotta speak up, sir.
Yeah, okay.
All right, now, you're one of the three commissioners that, that Ms. Irina is seeking to recall, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, have you done an analysis of the people that signed this recall petition?
Yes, sir.
All right. And can you tell the judge what you found as a result of that analysis?
Again, I'm gonna make my objection that I've asked before. We are well outside of any affirmative pleading that they've requested. They haven't addressed anything in any of their pleadings concerning any deficiency with the signatures or anything of that nature. They have nothing. So, in addition, this witness cannot testify in regards to his own investigation of the recall petition against him.
Sir? Well, Your Honor, I'm asking him if he took, he's got a right to take a look at the signatures to find out whether they're registered voters or not, and whether they voted in this election or not, Your Honor. And that's what I'm gonna ask him.
I'm gonna overbill, you can keep your questions specific to that, sir.
Mr. Cohen, have you examined this, show you which document we're talking about? The Defendant's Exhibit number 1. Have you seen this document?
Yes, sir, I have.
And did you go through it?
I went through every page, through every signature, through every address. I typed the whole thing in my computer.
Okay, did you determine whether or not they were registered to vote?
I checked everyone. I went to the county tax assessor collector, received copies of all the city people who voted in the May 4th, 2024 election. And I decided I'm going to find out all these people that signed this. I said, did they even vote during the time that we got elected?
What did you find?
So I found that 60% of the people that signed it did not vote.
Your Honor, I am gonna have to object to the relevancy. That is not the requirement of the charter, as everyone's testified to. It's 20% of the total, the number of voters, the number that voted in the last cycle. 20% of that number is necessary for the recall petition. So,
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. Let me explain the reason why it's relevant, Your Honor. What Ms. Tejina is seeking to do is to undermine the will of the voters of Kingsville that voted for these commissioners to have them elected and serve them as their city commissioners. There was an election that was called, and they were elected by the voters. What she's seeking to do is take the recall provisions of the city charter and incorrectly apply them to try to undermine the voters, because what happened here is that she got this, she could have done this at the time of the election, but instead what she did,
Real quick, let's clear something up. So it's 20% is a key number, but that's of the voters who actually voted in the previous election dealing with these commissioners, is that correct? Or are you saying every registered voter in this
no,
county?
Your Honor, I think that Mr. Gale states the law correctly, but I think the court needs to get a flavor of what's going on here. They're getting people that didn't even vote in this election to sign this recall petition and trying to use it to remove these voters. And that's just, and then they're doing it in a way that is a violation of the city charter.
Sure.
I mean, you have to see the whole picture to find out what's going on here, Your Honor.
here's where I think the disconnect is that the charter, and you'll see it as Exhibit 1 in paragraph 4, talks about the percentage, and it says you must have at least 20% of the number of what? The number of qualified voters voting in the last election cycle. So you take the number of people that voted in the last election cycle, you multiply that by 20%, and you make a determination on the numbers of voters that are necessary. I think what counsel is arguing, although I'm not positive, is that you have to show that 20% of the actual persons who voted in the election have to be counted, and that's not what it is. It says 20% of the number, and then the number is determined by the qualified voters voting. So, and there's already been testimony from the mayor and the city secretary. There's evidence to the contrary that was unobjected to, establishing that there was no concern with this. And so that, coupled with the fact that they have no affirmative pleadings regarding it, and they have someone who's not qualified to give the opinions that he has. He's not testifying as a witness, he's just testifying as some kind of expert.
I'm not arguing that, Your Honor. What I'm arguing, I'm letting the court know a basic fundamental fact of what's going on here. 60% of the people that signed this petition didn't bother to go vote when they went to go, when they had their election.
Well, then I'm gonna object it's irrelevant, because it doesn't matter, that's not how
I
the
don't
numbers
interrupt
determined.
you, sir, with all due respect. That's all I'm telling you, Your Honor, is that not only did she not follow the provisions of the charter in really important respects, but essentially she went out there and found people that if she was so interested in not getting these people elected, she should have done that when they ran for office. She wasn't able to do that, so she goes around it, violates the provisions of the city charter, and gets people that didn't even vote in this election to try to use them to get these people on the ballot again and get a second shot at them. You know, they didn't do it the first time. They shouldn't be allowed to do it this time when they haven't even bothered to comply with the basic provisions of the city charter. You know, one of the pieces of, the reason why this is important is that you heard the city secretary say that she explained to Ms. Figuerina, you have 30 days to bring in this petition. She knew she had 30 days. She's even certified that. And she didn't do it. And so this tells you exactly what's going on. I mean, you know, when you sit where you sit, you have to, I believe, sometimes look at things other than the specifics of what is required under the statute. If he's talking about wanting to, what he's telling you is, I want you, Judge, to make sure that we only enforce those provisions of the city charter that I want you to enforce. The other ones, like the timelines and the specificity and the distinctly provisions in the charter, we don't need to follow those. We just want you to follow the rule with respect to how many signatures are out there. And Your Honor, that's just not right. You gotta have it, you can't have it one way and ignore the rest of it the other way. What I'm just saying to the court is that we have a situation here where they just are trying to get around the city charter to try to get rid of these people when they couldn't do it at the time of the election.
Thank you, sir. Sustained. Next question.
I have no further questions.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Just a few, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Alarcon, after you did receive a copy of the recall certification from the city secretary, correct? From the city secretary certifying the recall election. Yes or no? You received it.
I received a memo.
Okay. And is that memo, was it titled Certification of Petitions for Recall?
Yes,
Okay. So after you received the certification of petitions for recall on June 23rd, 2025, did you file, outside of this litigation, did you file any request for mandamus relief or declaratory judgment, anything of that nature?
what I was trying to say is I did send an email asking these people, who were these people? And I wanted to know that what were these charges that were included, the 4 charges. I said, where did they get this information? Where
I'm going to object, it's non-responsive. I was trying to see if he would answer it, but he's not.
Rephrase your question one more time, sir.
After you receive what is termed the certification of petitions for recall from the city of Kingsville's secretary, the city secretary, did you file any causes of action asserting a request for mandamus relief? Yes or no?
I did it before.
You did what before?
I questioned
Okay.
what,
I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm not talking about asking people questions or sending people emails, but I'm saying, did you file something in a court of law?
that was my filing.
Did you ever file in a court of law any request for mandamus relief?
The city secretary, city attorney.
You understand my question, don't you?
I know what you're saying, but I had already asked and no one replied to my request.
Okay. So when the city of Kingsville, the city attorney didn't respond to whatever happened, did you file anything in a court of law? Let me finish the question first. Did you file anything in a court of law asking a judge, any judge, to grant you some sort of mandamus relief? Yes or no?
Well, we have to go to the city attorney first.
Okay,
I
so-
can't go to a judge, I have to go to the attorney before I go to a judge. So I directed my question or my it's my question to the city attorney.
And did the city attorney tell
She
you?
never responded.
Okay, so after she didn't respond, did you seek out anybody else to help you file anything in a court of law asking for mandamus relief? Okay, so my follow-up is, my same question is, did you ever file in a court of law anything requesting mandamus relief, period?
No.
Did you ever file anything in a court of law asking for some sort of declaratory judgment?
No.
Did you ever file anything in a court of law attacking the certification process by the city secretary in any way?
I tried.
And in regards to this litigation, have you asserted any affirmative relief asking for any of those things? Mandamus, declaratory judgment, anything?
No.
Thank you, no question.
Can you tell the judge why you didn't?
Your Honor, I'm gonna object to relevance. Whether he did or he didn't is the only issue in regards to this.
You're a lawyer, right?
No,
I thought you were a lawyer.
no, I was county clerk for 10 years.
Okay.
I did some,
Well,
uh,
as a county clerk, you were required to follow the laws of the state of Texas, right?
yes, sir, I know.
And there was statutory provisions that you were required to follow,
Exactly, yes, sir.
and you followed them.
I followed them to the best of my ability.
And as a city commissioner, when you got elected, did you take an oath of office?
I did
And what did that oath of office say?
to follow the law.
Okay, and why did you believe that it was not necessary to file anything when you received this petition and decided to vote against it?
Because of the charges they put it before us were false. There was nothing that told us, when did we target employees? When did we do anything wrong with the city? We go to these meetings, we vote on policies or procedures or whatever, contracts. When were we unprofessional doing that? You know, they didn't answer those questions. So I was not gonna vote for something against me when I never did any of those things.
And did you believe the city charter had been followed by them, by Ms. Tijerina?
Well, as far as the 31 days, she surpassed the days. She also, when it said you have specifically have to say what these charges are, they just said words, targeting personnel. When did that happen? Where's HR in this? Where's the city attorney? We have a police department. We have all these departments. Where is the evidence? There's no evidence. I was not gonna vote for those things that were against me. I didn't do any of those things.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Nothing further?
Step down. Any other witnesses, sir?
No, Your Honor, we read some.
Okay, we're going to closing argument, sir.
I think I might have misspoke when I would give a limited opening argument, and I might have informed you way more than I should have.
You can limit this to 7 minutes.
Yes, Your Honor, I think I can satisfy that. You know, it's very clear in regards to this, and I'm gonna start from the back end first. You know, and I keep hammering this. They have not filed anything affirmatively putting any concerns that they have with the timeliness of certification or dotting an I or crossing a T or anything else during this process. They did nothing. The Wollingford case, the one that I give you, it's expressly on point in regards to this. And it's, instead of doing what they had the ability, the court asked me, okay, well, if the city secretary cannot confirm the consistency of it, then who can? Well, the city can't itself, the people can't do that, but they can ask you to do it. They could have immediately filed what we filed, which was a mandamus or a request for declaratory relief or whatever they decided they want to attack it on. And they could have asked to prevent them from doing the recall petition because it was some ministerial duty. I'm not saying they would be able to satisfy that burden, but they could have filed that. They didn't file any of those things. So any of the tax that they want to conjure up, you know, in regards to anything in regards to this case are just simply irrelevant. And they do not matter. I mean, at the very end, now it's a Hail Mary trying to say that the number of the percentages of numbers are not correct, or they are, but we just want you to understand. It's irrelevant to the proceedings. We filed a mandamus because we want you to enforce a ministerial duty in regards to the city. A ministerial duty that the city secretary in writing told them they had. A ministerial duty that the mayor said they have. A ministerial duty that their own council, and you have copies of the minutes where they all talk about this, including the city attorney. And they say it's a ministerial duty. We do not have any discretion in regards to what we can do. And you have to hold the recall election. You have, in fact, you have to vote for it. The cases that I presented to you, including the Duffy case that was in the stack, says that a commissioner has to vote for their own recall election, because that we leave it up to the voters. And they did nothing outside of that. Because of that, and they have nothing affirmatively putting any sort of relief on file, there's really not in discretion here. I kind of agree with council, but in an opposite way is that they should have given the recall election and then used the process and talked to voters and explained what's going on, or, whatever. That's the political process, and that has nothing to do here. But the city of Kingsville, right or wrong, gave a procedure for 20% of voters to come back and have a recall election. And the voter turnout was poor the last time before, which meant to an irregular result is not many people were required for this recall petition. But no one in this room even wrote that charter. No one is even around to know who wrote it, probably. But it is what it is, and it gives them the ability to do that. That's exactly what they did. And instead of doing what they could have done, they have decided just to sit on their hands and force the citizens to to make them do what they're supposed to do. And everybody agrees on it. Every witness that gets up there. So there is really no discretion. I think I've used 6 minutes, and I think the court knows what to do, and we'd ask that you sign the order. I was looking for it. I don't think I provided a copy in the original mandamus, but I can email it. But basically it asks them to order to have this thing within a certain period of time, and that's all we have, Your Honor.
Sir?
What you have not heard, one single time since this case started, is whether or not Ms. Tijerina filed this petition in time from Mr. Gale. There's no question that she did not. That is irrefutable evidence. The date that she signed the affidavit was May 6th. The date that the petition was that she filed the affidavit was May 6th and signed it. And the city secretary confirmed that. And June 6th was the date that she filed the petition. There is no question that she filed it late. He's never disputed that. He tried to argue at the very beginning that that's not what you had before you, but when we had the city secretary specifically state that the date of filing was May the 6th, he didn't come back to that issue. The court can look at the allegations that are in the petition, and the court can also take a look at the charter. And the charter specifically says what has to be in that petition. And it says, each ground with such certainty as to give the officers sought to be removed notice of such matters and things with which he or she is charged. There is no question, Your Honor, that the allegations that are contained in the recall petition are not specific and distinct. They do not, with certainty, give any of these three commissioners notice of such matters and things with which he or she is charged. It's almost like a quasi-criminal provision that's contained in the recall provisions of the city charter. What Mr. Gale is asking, what the petition plaintiff is asking you to do, is to cherry pick only those provisions of the city charter that he wants you to enforce. And then he ignores the jurisdictional sections that are contained in the charter. And that's probably the most important provision in this entire document that applies in this case. Because, as I mentioned to the court at the very beginning, cities are bound by, in the area of recall, bound by their city charter. There is no statutory provisions that apply to city, home rule cities with respect to recall. If you want to find out how it works, you have to come to the charter. I researched, I said, well, when I got this recall petition, I said, well, there's got to be some law that the statutes that were enacted by the legislature, what has to be complied with in order to be able to do a recall petition and an election. And there was nothing except for non-home rule cities. So that necessarily takes you to what is the law in the city of Kingsville, which is the specific provisions of the charter. And the charter tells us when you come into play, when you have, as a judge, the ability to tell these individuals what to do, which is the form of mandamus. They don't call it mandamus in the petition. They file it as a mandamus petition. They don't call it a mandamus in the charter, but they file it in the form of a mandamus petition. But the charter tells you exactly when the only time that you can come into making these officers, or enter into a situation where you're going to make these officers do something, in this case, call for a recall election. It says, and I'll repeat it again, but I have to emphasize, because it uses the word shall. Failure of city commission to call an election. In case all of the requirements of this charter shall have been met, and the city commission shall fail or refuse to receive the recall petition, or order such recall election, or discharge any other duties imposed upon said city commission by the provisions of this city charter. It says that. With reference to such recall, then, only then, the district judge of Clayburgh County shall discharge any such duties herein provided. So it tells you, everything, it confines your ability to be involved in this case to the provisions that are contained in that charter provision, Your Honor. And so, all these arguments, these cases that he cites, in none of these cases does he cite you to a charter provision such as the one we have here that required you as the district judge to determine whether or not the provisions of the city charter were followed. He doesn't cite you to a single case. And one case that he gave us was on a referendum under statutory law, Your Honor. You don't have anywhere to look to other than to the four corners of these recall provisions in the city charter, and they clearly tell you what to do. And so, Your Honor, I think that they have failed to meet their burden. You can't have shall only one direction. What we have here is shall in two directions. And the shall in the direction that is important, because it's the only law that you are being asked to apply, is in the city charter that says you cannot, as a district judge, act unless you find that all the provisions, all the requirements of the city charter have been met. And certainly they have not. And I believe that the court has no discretion but to say writ of mandamus is denied and dismiss the case.
Thank you, sir. The court does agree that the city charter here in Kingsville does need to be updated. As I hear this case, it sounds like once the city secretary approved and certified the recall petition, that all the requirements were satisfied, it wasn't disputed or objected to, then it was there in front of you. So then the time then starts with business and legal and government. When we have a deadline, this was filed May 6th at 2:23 p.m. That means it starts counting the next day, and it goes over to a weekend. It goes to that Monday. We don't have the weekend issue here. So I am going to order that the day started May 7th, continue for 30 days, and that this recall petition was filed on time, and I am going to issue a writ of mandamus at this time. Anything else?
Can I forward a proposed order to council, and then once we have an agreement, at least as far as the form, that we forward it to the court?
Sir, well, I mean, the ruling that you have is different from what's contained in his order, so I'll work with him on the language of that order.
I'm trying to make sure it's clear, but I'll,
I'm fine with working with you, that's the way we normally do it as attorneys.
then I guess the answer was yes, that would be fine, I guess that's what he said. So I will do that, I will forward it to council for review.
Anything else?
No, not this time, Your Honor.
Sir?
That's all I have, thank you very much.
Okay, I won't dispute you. Have a good day.